Hello friends, today in this video we are going to learn what a Python ideally actually is and how to use it. So when you install Python in your machine, Python ideally gets automatically installed. So what is an ideally? Ideally stands for Integrated Development and Learning Environment. So it is basically a tool that you can use to write, edit, debug and run your Python code. So let's open Python ideally and let's see what it actually is and how to use it. So for opening ideally, you just have to write ideally here and then you can simply open it by left click. So you can see a window has opened. This is called Python shell. But in Python shell, you can only execute single line commands. Like if let's say if you want a value 2 to be assigned to the variable x, so you can execute it here. But if you want to execute two lines at the same time, you cannot do that using Python shell. If you want to execute multiple lines, then what you have to do? You have to go to file, you have to create a new file. Here you can obviously execute multi-line Python code. So let's write some very simple Python code. Okay, before going to that, let's see how we can configure this. So there is a option to configure the IDLE. Fine. So here you can change the font and you can also change the size of font and you can make it bold. You can increase the standard spacing and you can do a lot of things. So you can experiment with all these things, but for now I will just change the size of the font. It's currently 10, so let's make it, let's say 16. Apply. Okay, so now let's write some code here. Let's assign the value 2 to the variable x. Let's take another variable y and let's assign a value x plus 3 to it. Let's take another variable z and assign a value x plus 4 to it. Let's print all the variables x, y and z. Fine. So before running this code, what you have to do, you have to first save this file to a particular location. So let's save this file at a particular location by clicking on save as. Let's say I save it in documents, and in documents let's give the name of the file, let's say first Python program, and the next extension of the file should be .py. So let's save it there. So our file has been saved in this location, C users admin documents first python program.py. Now you can run your code here. From here, if you click on this option, run module, it will print the three variables. That is, it will run your code and give you the output. Ideally, you can easily execute multi-line code, but if you use the shell, then you cannot execute multi-line code. You have to go line by line. First you have to do x equal to 2, then you have to do y equal to x plus 3, and then you have to write z equal to x plus 4. So after writing each line, you have to press enter. At this point of time, this may not seem very problematic. This may seem fine, but when the number of lines of code increases, this becomes very cumbersome. And specifically, when you use indented blocks, it's actually impossible to write indented blocks using Python shell. For that, you always have to take this path. You have to create a new file, save it in some location, and then run it from here. You cannot do that using Python shell. Using Python shell, you can only run single line Python code. So here obviously you can now print x, y and z. So if you run it now, if you now press enter, it will print 2, 5 and 6. Let's say you want to make this part of the code indented. So you can do it from here, indent region, and it will add indentation to your code. So indentation in Python is a very important thing. All the statements in our next videos, when we'll learn decision control statements in Python and loops in Python, we will see why indentation is so important. All the statements which are under the same block, let's say if block or else block or inside a loop, all the statements which are inside the same block should maintain the same indentation. If you don't maintain proper indentation in Python, your code will obviously raise error. So indentation in Python is very important, which we are going to learn in our upcoming videos. So in this way, from format, you can indent your code. In the same way, by selecting the required portion of your code, you can also dedent it. That is, you can remove the indentation, right? Similarly, you can comment out your code. That is, if you don't want these lines to be executed, then you can comment out this region like this. Also, you can remove the comment, that is, you can uncomment the region from the same tab, that is format. Fine. So these are all the things that you can perform from Python ideally. Okay, so far we have learned how to write, edit and run our code using Python ideally, but that is not enough. You also have to debug your code. So what is debugging? Debugging is observing the line by line execution of your code to remove any errors from your code. Let's say you have written a part of your code, but it is raising some error and you are not able to understand where this error is actually coming from. Then you have to see the line by line execution of the code using the debugger, and from that you can determine where the error is actually getting raised from. So let's see how we can use debugger in Python ideally. For debugging your code, what first you have to do is you have to save your file at first. Then let's open this two windows side by side. For debugging your code, first what you have to do, you have to go to Python shell, debug, and you have to click this option, debugger. So as soon as you click this option, debugger, you can see that debug on, that is your debugging session has started. Now if you press F5, or from here if you click this option, run module, our debugging session will be started. So what debugging actually is, it as I have just mentioned, observing the line by line execution of your entire code to remove any potential error from it, right? So in the debug window, you can see several options are available: go, step, over, out, quit, etc. Now let's see what these things actually are. What are their functions? So if you go to the slide, you can see the go command, it takes the input and shows the output, does not show the line by line execution. But this is not something that we want, right? We want to see the line by line execution of the entire code. So this go command will not come to much of our use, right? So let's click on go. You can see it directly prints the output without stopping at any of the lines. So this is not something that we want, right? We want the debugger to stop at each and every line, and after the execution of each line, we want to check the values of X, Y, and Z, right? So that is not what the go option does. So we will not choose this option right now. So let's explore the other options like step, over, out, quit, etc. So let's go to the slide and let's see what these different commands or what these different options actually do. So what does step do? It moves line by line and enters any function if encountered. We will come back to this later. First, let's check this option, over. So what it does, it moves line by line without entering any function. So let's go back to our code. So let's click on over. So this is the option that we are going to test now. So when you click on over, you can see it has executed the first line, and you can see it is now pointing to line number 2, that is y equal to x plus 3. If you again, and you can see as the first line of the code has been executed, the current value of x is 2. Now if you again press over, you can see now it is pointing to line number 3. I guess you can see this. You can see that it is pointing to line number 3, and what is written in line number 3? Z equal to x plus 4. So the line number 2 has been executed and it is now pointing to line number 3. So as line number 2 has already been executed, so y equal to x plus 3 has given us 5. So the current value of y is 5. Now if we again press over, it again goes to the next line, that is this line has been executed and it is currently pointing to this line. So as this line has also been executed, the current value of z is 6. Why is it 6? Because the current value of x is 2 and 2 plus 4 makes it 6, right? So the 3 lines have been executed, and after the execution of each line, here we can check what are the current value of the variables. So this makes debugging very easy. When you can see the line by line execution, the line by line assignment of all the variables, removing errors from your code becomes much easier. So that is the beauty of debugging. Debugging is a very important feature of any programming language, right? So we are currently pointing to this line. You can see line number 4, print x, y, z. Now if we again press over, it will now print in the Python shell. It has printed 256. That is, it prints the value of x, y, and z, right? So through this over function, through this over feature, what happened actually, we could see the line by line execution of each line of the code. And one very important thing about over is that, as we just mentioned, it stops at every line, but whenever it encounters a function, it does not enter that function. For example, print is one of the inbuilt functions in Python. So when we encountered this line, the debugger did not enter inside the print function. It did not show us what was written inside the print function, or it did not show us the line by line execution inside the print function. Rather, it directly executed the print function and gave us the output. Now this thing will not happen when we will use step instead of over. In case of step, if there is any function, our debugger enters inside the function. In this case, it directly gives the output of the function, but in case of step, whenever a function is encountered, our debugger will enter inside the function. Let's check that as well. Or to make things even clearer, or let me define a function on our own. So let the name of the function be, when we create a function, we use the def keyword. You will learn it in our upcoming videos, so don't worry about that. So just keep this thing in mind, that when we try to create a function, we use a def keyword. So let the name of the function be myfunc, and inside the function, whatever code we write, we maintain the same indentation, that is the same number of white spaces in front of them. So if we press enter, you can see it automatically adds some white spaces in front of the first character of the line. So this indicates that the function block is starting from this line. So let's take another variable called a, and let's say assign a value 1 to it, and let's print the value of a. Now let's come out of the function and let's call the function myfunc from here. So if you are not understanding this entire thing, don't worry about this at all. When we will learn about function, this entire thing will become clear to you. Okay, so let this be our code, and let's move this function at the top of everything. Let this be the first lines of our code, and let bring the print statement down. Fine. So let's save our code, and now let's run the debug session once again. Okay, so let's close the debug window. So you can see debug is off currently. Let's again start debugging by pressing debugger. Now let's start running our module. So you can again see it is pointing to line number 1, def myfunc. So if you press over, it goes to line number 5, that is x equal to 2. Now if we again press over, it goes to the next line, that is y equal to x plus 3. If we again press over, it goes to line number 7, that is z equal to x plus 4. Now comes the interesting part. Now we have a function here, right? Let's press over again. So it currently points to line number 8, that is myfunc. Now if we press over again, what will happen is that the control or the debugger will not enter the function. It will execute these lines, but we will not be able to see the execution. It will directly execute the function and come out of the function, but we will not be able to see that. So from this line, it will directly go to the print statement or print function. So the debugger will not go inside this function. So let's check that. Currently we are pointing to this line. So if we press over again, you can see now it is print, and it has gone to line number 9, that is this line. It has not gone here, that is the function has already been called, but the debugger has not gone inside the function, that is the debugger has not stopped inside the function. And that's what we mentioned in our slide. In our slide we mentioned that what over does, it moves line by line without entering any function. Remember, all the lines inside, when we are calling the function, all the lines inside the function are getting executed, but the debugger is not stopping while those lines are getting executed. Now if we execute the last line, that is print is again a function. This was an user defined function, this was a function that was defined by us. Now this is Python's own function, and again if we press over, it will not go inside the print function. So if we press over again, you can see the execution has ended and we have got the output. It has neither gone inside the myfunc function nor has it gone inside the print function. So that's what over does. Now instead of using over, let's use step. So let's close this debugging session and let's restart a new debugging session. Okay, so a debugger's window has opened. Now let's start running our module. Okay, so instead of over, we will now use step. So currently it is pointing to line number 1, that is def myfunc. So it has gone to line number 5. Now you may ask me why in case of step, you just said that in case of step it enters the function, but why it is going from line number 1 to line number 5? Remember friends, in case of step, it is true that it enters the function, but when does it enter the function? It enters the function when when the function gets called. In this line, in this block is just the definition of the function. We have not called the function yet. Where have we called the function? This is the line where we have called the function. So when we will reach this line, you will see that the debugger will enter here. Now as we have just defined the function so far and not yet called the function, that's why the debugger has not entered inside the function. So from here it has directly gone to this line, that is x equal to 2. If we again press step, it goes to the next line, y equal to x plus 3. If we again press step, it goes to the next line, that is z equal to x plus 4. Now it again goes to line number 8, that is myfunc. now comes the interesting part. Now if we again press step, in our previous case what happened when we used over, what happened when we used over, it did not enter, actually it executed all the code inside the function, but the debugger did not enter inside the function, that is the debugger did not stop inside the function. But in this case, if we press step, you can see the debugger is now pointing to line number 2, that is a equal to 1. So the debugger has now stopped inside the function. Earlier it was executing the code inside the function but was not stopping, but in this case it is executing, and while the code is getting executed, it is also stopping, right? So if we again press step, it goes to the next line of the function, that is line number 3, print a. Now again we have got a function, that is print function, which is Python's own function, or which we also call inbuilt function in Python. But we don't want to see how this function is executed line by line. That is, we are not interested in the internal execution of the print function. We just want the value of a to be printed using this function. That is, we just want the output of this function. So what will we do? Will we choose step or will we choose over? So obviously, as we don't want to execute this function line by line, or we don't want to enter inside this print function, we just want its output. That's why we will choose over and not step. So let's press over. As you have pressed over, you can see that from this line, that is line number 3, it has gone to line number 9. So it has directly come here. So again in this line number 9, we have again got a print function. Again, we are not interested in executing this print function line by line. Rather, we just need the output of this print function. So again, instead of clicking on step, we will click on over. So let's press over again, and as soon as you press over, you can see that all the options, all the controls get disabled. All this go, step, over, out, quit, all these controls get disabled, which means our code execution has ended. And if you go to the Python shell, you can see that the output has been printed, right? This output 1 is coming from inside this, inside the myfunc function, that is this is for this print statement, and this output 256 is for this print statement, right? So this is how the step and over functionalities actually work, right? Now there are two other controls called out and quit. So out, what it actually does is, let's say your debugger is currently pointing to this line. So what it will actually do is, it will not stop in the remaining lines of the function. So let's say we are here. So we have stopped at this line. The debugger is pointing currently to this line. So it will not stop, it will execute all the remaining lines of the function, but it will not stop at any of the remaining lines. That is, it will print the value of a from this function, but it will not stop. The debugger will not show you the execution of this line. So from this line, the debugger will directly come to this line. So let's see that as well. Let's see that as well in action. So let's run our code once again, run module, and you can again see it is pointing to line number 1. Let's keep on pressing over. So it goes to line number 5, then line number 6, y equal to x plus 3, then z equal to x plus 4, then it goes to the line number 8, that is myfunc. Now we are interested in going inside the myfunc function, so we'll click on step. So you can see it has gone to line number 2, that is a equal to 1. Now if we press out, what will happen? This remaining line of the function, that is print a, will be executed, but we will not be able to see the execution. That is, the debugger will not stop here. Rather, from this line, that is line number 2, it will directly come to this line, that is line number 9. So let's press out, and you can see that it has directly come to line number 9. So in line number 9 we will have print xyz. So again we are not interested in going inside the function, so we will again press over, right? So obviously the same output will again get printed in the shell. So that's how these things work. Step, over, out, go, these things work in this way. So that's it for this video, friends. It is very normal if you have not understood everything in this single video. It's not always possible to understand everything in the first go. So just keep on practicing. As you will keep on practicing with Python, ideally the things will become much clearer to you. Also keep on exploring the different options like just I have shown you. Just keep on using these different controls like go, step, over, out, quit. Try to customize your ideally from this options to configure your ideally from here. As you will work more and more with this configurations and all this stuff, things will get much simpler and much clearer to you. So that's it for this video, friends. If you are facing any issues with Python ideally, just let me know that in the comment section. I'll try to help you out as much as possible. If you have liked my video, please subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I'll upload more Python and data science related videos. And please don't forget to like and share my video so that it reaches a larger audience and they also get benefited from it. Thanks a lot for watching.